Central rivals go head-to-head this weekend when the Pirates face the Cubs at Wrigley.
Swing and a miss. He stuck him out.
The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app.
Coming up on the Best of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast, Colin Cowherd says the Pac-12 South is the best division in college football. Louis Riddick after a big night at the NFL Draft, plus your phone calls. It's the Best of the Finebaum Show podcast, and it starts right now.
This is the Best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Friday has arrived, and not a moment too soon. Good afternoon, and welcome for the next 4 hours, wherever you are, however you may be participating in our little afternoon delight here. So much going on with the NFL Draft. So many stories as a part of that. Who went, who didn't, the reaction, and everyone wants some crab legs to celebrate Jameis Winston getting picked number one. He celebrated last night in Bessemer, Alabama, not too far from where Bo Jackson grew up, not too far from where Willie Mays grew up. A pretty important site right outside of Birmingham. Some pretty famous athletes. Not often you have two number one picks from essentially the same area of town. Bo Jackson, of course, many years ago. That was in 1986, and obviously Jameis last night. We'll get into all of that with many, many guests. The Lyle Collins story continuing to confuse people, and we'll go down to New Orleans and Baton Rouge later on to find out what's going on. Louis Riddick, maybe the unsung hero of last night's ESPN coverage. He'll join us. R.J. Bell on the weekend in Vegas, the weekend in Louisville, and then later in the show, some draft analysis with Kevin Weidel and the Big Swagoo. And if you were listening to radio earlier today on ESPN, you found out the SEC is pretty much dead. We'll get to that story in a moment. We began the week with more negative news out of Tuscaloosa, a fourth arrest. Well, scratch that. Latest news out of Tuscaloosa, and it just broke. Cyrus Jones is no longer facing charges. Just a couple of days after he was charged with criminal mischief and harassment, the charges are now gone. It was a very confusing situation to begin with, considering that he called the police in the first place, but that is now done. So Alabama finally has a little bit of good news to deal with in terms of the police blotter. We'll get to your phone calls at 855-242-7285. Certainly much to discuss from the draft last night. Anyway, you take it. It was a big night for Jameis Winston, a big night for the ACC. A couple of SEC players went early, a couple didn't go at all, and we'll get into those stories as well. Shane Ray did go and went a lot higher than we thought. Shane Ray certainly the big story early in the week, and it turned out to be pretty good for him. Also, Colin Cowherd, our good friend from ESPN Radio, railed on Alabama during the season, saying the Nick Saban dynasty was over. Of course, he also predicted Tennessee to beat Alabama. That didn't happen, and the dynasty didn't appear to be over either, considering Alabama turned out to be number one in the country after the last weekend of the regular season, went into the national semifinals as a number one team, and then, of course, 5 months ago today, they lost to Ohio State. Well, if you missed it, this was Colin this morning talking about the new sheriff in college football.
I don't know if you've noticed this last night. I'm not going to try to get personal here. But sometimes it's very hard for people to move off something. If they've been good forever, they think they're good. We've all gone to that golf course, hotel, restaurant. Like it's so good for like 10 years, and then something happens. Maybe it's new owner, new manager, whatever. And like that restaurant, like it's just great forever, and that hotel's great forever, and that golf course, all of a sudden you go to it and you're like, let's be honest here, it's not as good. It may return to its dominance, but it's not quite as good. It is very difficult for Southerners to embrace the fact that maybe the SEC is not as dominant as they think it is. It certainly was for a decade, but it's not now. I don't know if you've noticed, but Alabama in 4 or 5 of its last big games, they've been losing. The SEC West, which was so dominant for years and years, kind of embarrassed itself last year. Remember the bowl season? Bama lost, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, lost. Loss. You may have noticed the Pac-12 South has become the best division in college football. Did you see how their teams did in bowl games? USC won, UCLA won, Arizona State won, Utah won, Arizona could have. Anybody notice the first round last night? 9 Pac-12 players. More than the SEC. I told you this was happening 3 years ago. ESPN and Fox paid the Pac-12 a lot of money. People built big facilities. All the schools got better players, can afford better coaches. You're watching it happen live in living color. The Pac-12 Southern Division's the best college football right now. In fact, the great SEC West, it's so dominant. You know how many guys they had in the first round last night? Actually, one, Amari Cooper. One. They had that offensive lineman from Texas A&M. He was a fifth-year senior. He was recruited when they were in the Big 12. He doesn't count. I know that's hard for a guy in Tuscaloosa. By the way, the Pac-12 not only has nicer places to live, Pacific Ocean, they got better players now.
Colin, I don't mind your rant. We're friends. We've been friends a while, and I think a lot of you. But just get your facts right, if you don't mind. First of all, Dante Feller went third in the draft. I think everyone knows that. I don't know how you obviously missed that. And by the way, Colin, Texas A&M won its bowl game, okay? Beat West Virginia, 45-37. So rant and rave all you want. Just get your facts right, and we'll all be cool. How about that? 855-242-7285 is our number. Let's start the conversation with Brian down in Florida. How are you, Brian? Brian, you there?
I called to want to talk to you about Mr. Cowherd, and that was before, obviously, I knew that you were going to be playing a little bit of a snippet. But I did catch a little bit of a show this morning, and I'm not going to begrudge any person their opinion or any conference feeling good about how they did in the draft. But you have to look at these things in the big picture and in the long run. And for anybody seriously to believe that, the Pac-12...
Yeah, and by the way, Brian, I don't mean to interrupt, but Shane Ray also went in the first round. I mean, Colin only missed that by 2 or 3. But
he had a couple of omissions and mistakes, but... I guess maybe he's so excited about the fight tomorrow.
Well, I will tell you one thing, though, Brian, and I've done this many times in my earlier life when I bloviated for the sake of bloviating like Colin does now. But, I mean, if you're going to attack something, it's really not difficult to get it right. I mean, there's no excuse for a national commentator to go on one of the most listened to radio shows in America and swing a crowbar and make factual errors. That's inexcusable.
Right, and and just the way he termed it too, because I'm pretty in tune to this. Instead of saying Southeastern Conference fans, et cetera, he had to use the word Southerners, and that is a common trait that he does whenever he bloviates about certain things. He wants to turn it into a North-South Union Confederacy thing, and I'm like you. I'm from New York, but I grew up in South Florida and been in the South for 35, 40 years. Went to UF. So, trying to whip up this stuff, it just doesn't cut it for me.
No, I agree with you. And listen, I mean, he's got a good shtick, and it's fine. I don't care. I used to get really invested in what other commentators said. Now it's irrelevant. And Colin's good. I'm not sitting here trying to say he's not. He's highly thought of by many, many people. But his rant today was patently ridiculous. The SEC is still as strong as it always is. Was it a little bit off in terms of the draft? Of course it was. Does that really mean anything? I don't know. What it means is the coaching in the SEC hasn't been quite as good. I think I saw a stat today where Florida's had 5 players in the first round in the last 3 years, but they lost, and the coach got fired. Well, it's not hard to figure out. Will Muschamp couldn't cut it as the head coach. He still had talent, but things are cyclical. I thought Landon Collins would go in the first round. Obviously, Collins probably would have gone in the first round. These things do matter, but judging, I saw Cannell tweet last night. I mean, Cannell's pathetic when it comes to his hatred toward the SEC. The SEC is still the most dominant league in all of sports, and it is a little down in comparison to where it was when it was winning every single year. When you win 7 straight years, and you miss 2 years in a row, you're going to be down. But it's not like the SEC is missing by a mile. The SEC was in the national championship game 2 years ago, lost, final 13 seconds of the game. This year, semifinals, lost. Okay, so there weren't as many players taken in the draft. I see that. I cover this league. I know more about this league than Colin Cowherd, I promise you. I know more about it than other people that bloviate for a living. It is a little bit down, but it can change quickly. It's a little bit down because, as we have said many, many times, it's been the league cannibalized itself last year. No one went through a tougher road than the SEC West teams, and it caught up. It caught up to Auburn a little bit. Alabama, I'm still not sure what happened in that case. Mississippi State finally ran into a couple of brick walls. These things do happen. It doesn't mean it's the end of the road, but you know you're fairly important when you get some guy from Oregon who works in Connecticut calling people Southerners. I mean, considering what's going on in the country today, to start labeling people Southerners is patently ridiculous. Let's get some more phone calls and check in with Lance, who is in Tennessee. How are you, Lance?
Doing great. That's what I love about you, Paul. I love the way you just took up the SEC. You're right on the money. But I will say this about Colin Cowherd. He did make one good point. That, however you want to say it, SEC people just can't. They can't stand that SEC ain't number one in something. I mean, just look how they acted in basketball, man. That's the only point.
Well, no, I agree with you on that, Lance. And all, for all the criticism we get here, I think we shoot pretty straight. We don't. This is not a PR operation for the SEC. I know what the name of the network is, but I don't think you'll find a show that allows this honest conversation about the SEC than this one. I mean, I've said many times I thought things were a little bit down. This league is up against the wall right now, and if it doesn't win this year, it's going to get worse. So that was on Alabama last year. Alabama won the SEC, and Alabama flopped in the national semifinal. Can someone pick up the mantle, or is it up to Alabama? I don't know. It's really not my concern. I just sit here and talk about stuff.
That's what I love about your show, Paul, because you are fair-minded, and it don't matter what topic it is or what conference or what team coach, you shoot it straight, and that's what I love about you, brother. And that's why it don't matter. That's why you saw about you on College Game Day when you used to beat up Desmond Howard every weekend.
But I'll tell you one thing about Colin Cowherd, though. Colin knows one thing. He'll get a rise out of people if he attacks the SEC. Does anyone care if Colin criticizes the Big Ten and talks about what a joke it's been the last couple of years? Does anyone care if he talks about the ACC with one or two good schools? No, nobody cares because no conference in America has a fan base that's as passionate. So if you're a commentator and you're looking to get a rise out of people, attack the biggest pinata out there, and the biggest one is the SEC. So, I mean, that's all there is to it.
That's the key word, passion, baby. There ain't no fans like us. We're passionate, baby. We got more passion. I mean, we get passionate on everything. Colin Cowherd out me. He'll say anything just to make somebody mad. You know what I mean? But that's all right, man. You took care of it today, Colin. I appreciate you taking up the SEC, man.
Well, I mean, Lance, it's not a matter of just taking up. I'm not doing that anymore. I've done it in the past, and I'm not doing it but because I don't think it's good. It's good for business to say things that people don't believe are true. I think what's good for business is to speak the truth. The truth is the SEC is in the crosshairs right now. But to say that it's over, to say it's down, to make fun of the people of the South, that really ticks me off.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
I mentioned a moment ago, but I do want to correct something because we like to be factual here in the moment. But Cowherd apparently was talking about the SEC West. And obviously, two players didn't get chosen that were expected to, but they didn't. You can equivocate on the player from Texas A&M, as stupid as that sounded and as petty as that sounded from Cowherd, but he was trying to drive his point home, which he obviously did. Let's check out Jim next. What's up, Jim?
Well, this is something I like to kind of get into because I'm not going to talk about football, but here's the thing, Paul. You had that jerk, and that's what he is. We played ball when I was 5 years old. I hit the football field, and I was playing with the older guys, 10, 9. They were older guys. And, I played with them. And so anyway, there was one guy out there that if he didn't like you, or if he resented you, or if he was jealous of you, and I took his place at quarterback, he got mad at me, and he called me P-U-R-D. And that's what, I'm not going to say the whole word like Phyllis used to say, but, I'm not going to say the cow word, but that's what that guy is. He's the essence, as my friend Shane used to many times use that phrase, essence. That guy is the essence of a T-U-R-D. Here's the thing about the guy. I didn't know much about the guy if you had him on, early in your show a couple of years ago or a year ago. And because I ignore those kind of people. And number one, anybody out there from the left coast we know is basically, most likely, a liar. So when I heard him on your show, bloviating, as you said, about all the Pac-12 and all that garbage and putting down the SEC, I said, okay, I see what this guy's about. This guy is totally about sensationalism, falsehood, lies, but he does it in a style that's authoritative sounding, with sounds firm and authoritative. And if you know anything about what he's talking about, then you know what a fool, what an idiot, what an imbecile, what a false, phony, bogus guy he is. But he can fool a lot of people, Paul, because as you know, not everybody is as sharp as the tool in the toolbox. You know that. So that's what he's lived off of is phony, false, bogus sensationalism with an authoritative style. I can do that, and I try to stay on the truth. But anybody that sounds like they know what they're talking about grabs hold or grips a lot of people and gets an audience, and they stay with him, because most of those people that stay with that guy have to be dumb. They've got to be dumb, because, like I said, when I heard the guy one time, I knew this guy is a liar, a phony, and a false guy. I don't want to. Why would I want to listen to that guy? So there's one more thing I wish you wouldn't have done, though. You gave him, Paul, you set him up, because your show is the biggest show in America, even now, even though I've criticized it. And you gave that guy, you should not give that guy any more of a platform to trying to make a name for himself other than the Pac-12, because that guy's got no name. He's a clown, Paul, a total clown, and I really mean that. That's all that guy really is.
Thank you, Jim.
All right.
Squirrel is up next in Mississippi. Hey, Squirrel.
Hey, was Jim describing Cowherd, or was he describing himself? I've been in the middle of a tongue. But, I got to kind of condone what Jim's saying. I mean, he's right. And I was just going to tell you to calm down. I could tell you're fired up. I hadn't heard that passion in your voice in a long time.
Well, you know something, Squirrel, I don't really care what anyone says about the schools and the teams, because they all have fan bases and they all have an infrastructure, and you either agree or disagree. I do care when I hear the phrase Southerners. I know what that means. You know what it means.
Yeah, of course. It's a dig. But my point is, just consider the source. In the big scheme of things, Paul, Colin Cowherd would be a pimple on Paul Finebaum's butt. You know what I'm saying? So just shake it off, man. Laugh it off. I mean, consider the source. And he's a fool.
Well, and one more thing I do want to say, why do we give it a forum? Because I think that's what you're supposed to do in a free-flowing society. I don't believe in ignoring criticism. I believe in throwing it out there and making people think about what others are saying about them. I mean, Colin Cowherd has a big megaphone. I mean, this isn't just some clown in a closet doing an internet radio show. This is a guy who is on the tallest mountain of the industry.
And everything he's doing intentionally. You know that. I mean,
of course
he's not
he is.
Stupid. He's doing this for a reason. And again, when you blow up, when you get upset, when you lose your cool, that's what he wants you to do. So, like I said, piss on him. I'm just going to laugh.
Well, and you start talking about where people would rather live. I don't know any Southerners who want to move to Southern California. Do you?
I've been to Southern California, and I'll stay in Mississippi. Thank you very much. Aloha.
Appreciate the call. Nice of you to be with us. So let's check in next with Steve in Decatur, Alabama. How are you, Steve?
Hey, Paul, just call me a Southerner. I'm talking to you on my rotary phone. But I got a question for you, Paul.
You bet.
If the SEC West was to match up against the South of the Pac-12, who would be the favorites in every ball game? That's no Cowhead that.
Well, listen, I mean, the problem with the SEC isn't the Pac-12. The problem with the SEC isn't the Big 12. The problem with the SEC isn't the Big 10. The problem with the SEC is the SEC. You know that.
Yeah, I do know that. But you know what? We may have a down year. But as an Ole Miss fan, I can tell Cowhead next year, I know one school that'll have 4 in the first round. That'll be the Ole Miss Rebels.
You're right about that.
Those years come out, those 4 will be in the first round. They'll be in the first 30 picks. And then if Alabama has something, you know what? Next year could be a bumper crop from the SEC.
Well, you cannot look at a draft and throw a dart at 1 year. You have to look at a cycle. And I saw this stat last night about the number of players that Saban, I think, has put in the first round since 2010. It was like 17 or something. In 2008, the year after Nick Saban arrived at Alabama, Alabama did not have a single player in the draft, not a single player taken in the draft because recruiting had been terrible. And I think John made the point earlier. Sometimes you're going to get caught up in a numbers game with people going early. I mean, obviously, a lot of great players go early. Some don't, but most do. And you'll find that soft year. This happened to be a little soft. And I think in Alabama's case, it looked like a down year, although they had the number 4 player taken and obviously another player, which everyone was convinced would go in the first round, and he didn't. Those things happen. You can't control what the NFL is going to do. Albert is up next. Good afternoon.
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
Hey, Albert.
Hey, this is my first time to call. I just want to comment on the Pac-12 dominance, as he wants to call it or whatever. Yeah, the SEC is going through a rough time right now, but you got to look at the West. The West, well, we'll take the West and the East, the SEC in a whole. We beat up on each other so much because we are so competitive and we are so dominant. That if you
that's the point, and I don't. You take your pick of the. I mean, Oregon. Oregon played. Everyone played a respectable schedule. I mean, I'm not saying they didn't, but everyone in the 14 playoff. Go ahead and try Auburn's schedule last year. Okay, try going to Mississippi State. Try going to Auburn, and try going to Alabama and Georgia. See how that works out. Okay, it's not going to go very well, and that's always been my argument. And I hate to beat a dead horse because. I think part of the problem with the SEC is the SEC network. What I mean by that is you look around the country and you think, boy, they got their own network now. Well, no one says that about the Pac-12. They've had their own network. Nobody can find it, but they have their own network. The Big Ten network's been out there for a number of years. Once the SEC got its own network, the Cowherds of the world acted like, oh, they got their own propaganda machine. The SEC is its own propaganda machine. It doesn't need a network to promote it. 7 straight national championships is all you need. A national runner-up the following year, a semifinalist this year. That's a pretty good run over the last 9 years. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Cowherd?
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Jerome is up next. Good afternoon, Jerome.
What's going on, Paul?
Okay.
Listen to me. Hey, old Colin Cowherd, Paul, he has a way of finding a way, Finebaum, to get his last little bit of lifeline in, If it weren't for the Pacquiao and Mayweather fight, Paul, and his little punchline about the Southerners, Paul, he absolutely would be about zero relevant at the Pac-12 side, Paul. You got to be kidding me, Finebaum, that he wasted his breath to tell us today that the Pac-12. Tell me, Arizona State and who, Paul? Who in the Pac-12 South, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, we went down the list. You know them as well as we do.
Well, I tell you, Paul, until USC come back, Paul, that's when we'll feel the Pac-12, Paul. Anything.
And by the way, they're talking about Leonard. They're talking about Leonard Williams getting drafted. You know who recruited and signed Leonard Williams at SC?
Hey, I don't care, Paul. He didn't play for Alabama.
Lane Kiffin did.
Well, he better get some more down there, Finebaum, because he's been doing a terrible job lately. Hear me? We got to take the punchline for the nation because we can't close the deal. So Lane better just go right on back to California and bring another Leonard Williams to Alabama. Roll Tide and have a good day.
Man, some heat for Lane.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Let's check in Nick. Check out Nick, who is in Atlanta. Hey, Nick.
Hey, Paul. How are you?
Pretty well, thank you.
Hey, you guys are proving all of Colin's points for him by having slow-witted people from the South defend the SEC. All he's doing is recognizing trends. He did the same thing with Major League Baseball. He's been talking about the decline of baseball for years. He was one of the first to point out the correlation between having a great GM and a franchise quarterback to success in the NFL. And the reason he doesn't take callers is because he is busy having original material and recognizing trends. So, you're proving all his points by having all these people call in and defend the SEC with nothing to back it up other than we're the best.
Well,
he
Nick,
said
let me
come back.
Listen, he's entitled to run his program however he chooses. We run ours differently down here, and whether it's original or not, I'm a strong believer that people ought to be heard, and there are not many places on a national platform that fans can call up and be heard without being pressured to make a point in 11 seconds. So good for him and good for us.
I've lived in the South my whole life, so it irks me to hear this. He said it's compared it to a restaurant. It could come back. But right now, the trend is going to the Pac-12.
Nick,
and he had a point.
First of all, what's his point?
His point is right now, the Pac-12 is moving up, and the SEC is on a slight decline. It could be cyclical, like you say, but as they are right now.
Well, what is a slight decline in your book?
Less bowl wins and draft picks.
And that means what?
That means that more elite players and better coaching and teams that are actually winning are coming from other regions of the country other than the South.
Well, but I think that's I know we're in a result-oriented business, and I'm certainly not here to try to throw things up against the wall to see if they stick. But a lot of times you can't tell. I mean, you go back, and certainly the SEC dominates on National Signing Day, correct?
Absolutely.
What do they do? If your argument is that in this 1 year, it didn't pan out on draft day, I suspect it will next year. I can't explain all the circumstances. I mean, I'm still shocked by Landon Collins, but it didn't happen. The SEC caught a break, though, because it didn't look like Shane Ray would go. He did. Collins we know about. So there are two that didn't go that probably should have. Would that have changed the overall impressions? Probably not. But I think it's pretty short-sighted to look at 1 year. I think you have to look at trends, and I think he failed to do that in his analysis. He did what a lot of the haters do, the haters of the SEC. They see something, they think they see a paradigm shift. And by the way, maybe they are seeing it. I'm not standing here. I'm not going to be the last one that's holding the fort. I'm not going to be the guy at the end of World War II that you find 20 years later and he's going, what happened? I live in this every single day. I don't like some of the things I'm seeing, but I also know how strong the league is. But in the new era of the 4-team playoff, if you don't win, you don't count. The SEC didn't win the first time out. Rich is next.
Hi, Paul. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure.
Hey, Paul, besides that fellow that just called, what's the percentage of your audience do you think listens to Colin Cowherd, the hardcore college football fan?
I don't know what the number. I mean, he certainly has a large audience because, and he does talk about college football, but Colin is Colin.
I'm talking about us. No,
I don't know.
No. Your audience.
Oh, I really could. I don't have a guess.
I think it's less than zero, other than the guy that just called. Because for me personally, I'd rather get the electric chair than listen to Colin Cowherd talk about college football. So there you go as far as his opinion goes.
Okay.
Now, but I do feel that I don't want to take a myopic view either. There are issues. There were issues last year, and that's okay. They're not insurmountable. And in fairness to that guy, with whatever his name was, and you mentioned this, there are some coaching things that I feel could help fix the issues moving forward, i.e. meaning next year. Alabama, this is year 9. You think they can get a pass rush? You got.
Rich, I think this is more about Alabama than the SEC.
Oh yeah, I know. It's the straw that stirs the drink. There's no.
In Alabama right now, Alabama fans don't want to hear this, but perceptively, it has fallen. And I know where Alabama was 5 months ago at this precise moment. They were number 1 in the country. No one knows that anymore. No one cares. And when you come back and say, yeah, they won the SEC, people say, who cares? They lost to Ohio State.
Right. All right, just real quickly, some of the other coaching I'm thinking about, because you brought it up with Florida, which I thought was a great point. 5 number 1 picks in the last 3 years. Did Coach Spurrier tell you that 7-6 was a decent season?
He sure did.
On the show this week? Yeah, I mean, LSU, really, with that talent base, they can't find a quarterback, or is it really Cam Cameron? The other caller, he brought up Ole Miss. I agree. I think they got 4 number 1 picks next year, 2 of them coming off a major injury. How does Coach Freeze get them to play hard and not get clowny disease? Lay out and save their body for the draft. So I think there are real issues. Again, none of them are insurmountable, but and that's what I would take from this. I would block out the distractions, the noise, and then focus on getting better. When Alabama loses, I don't give excuses on why they lost. They lost because they lost to a better team that night, and they got outplayed and outcoached. And they need to solve that. That's all. This is, like I said, it's not insurmountable. But it is a real issue,
Rich, we agree, and I think because you pay attention to this show that that was a dramatic and important moment in college football. And I'll tell you what a lot of people are saying privately. They're wondering about Saban, and I know that's blasphemy to say, but they're going, is he going to win again? And I know that's not fair. His record is better than anyone else's. He's still the preeminent coach in the game, but when you lose, people start to whisper, and in Colin's case, they start to do more than whisper.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
I've been reading articles all day long about the star of last night's draft coverage. Just read one in Sports Illustrated. Many others have praised the work of Louis Riddick, who filled in for Ray Lewis, who had been scheduled to be on the main desk, but opted to go back to Baltimore to try to work with the community there. And I'm sure I'm sure he's blushing right now as I introduce Louis Riddick. But Louis, I know you've been too busy all day to read the reviews, but you were definitely the star of the sports TV critics. Good afternoon.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Yeah, it was a great night, man. A lot of fun, a lot of preparation I got to use on TV, which was. It was just great. It was just a lot of fun to be around John and Mel and Boomer, and I'm just glad everybody liked it.
When did you find out? Obviously you knew you would be part of the coverage, but when did you find out you would be part of the main set?
I was actually sitting at home in my office on Tuesday night, and Seth Markman texted me and asked me when I was scheduled to get in on Wednesday, and then he texted me again and said, could you get here sooner? And I kind of knew something was up then, and then he called me and we talked, and he told me about Ray's situation. And just said, I need you to get on an earlier flight so you can get out here to Chicago and be a part of the TV production meeting, and everything just kind of rolled from there. I was prepared anyway because I was doing the radio. It's just that the medium changed. It just went from being radio to TV, which is really no big deal to me. I knew there was a bigger stage and all, but, I was ready to go. So as soon as we worked out some of the kinks earlier on in the broadcast because it was so loud and stuff. It was just like doing what I do, I don't mean to make it sound simple, but it was simple. We were just talking ball and having a good time.
Let's talk about some of the stories that were compelling, to say the least. The one was Shane Ray. We all know what happened earlier in the week. It looked like he was going to fall off the face of the earth, but he didn't. What did you pick up last night, and your explanation of why he did land in the first round after all?
Well, I think it's because when you looked at the issue as far as having the marijuana possession in its proper context and kind of really analyzed it objectively, yeah, it's a stupid decision. I mean, it's a real stupid decision coming a couple of days before the draft. But I think people were comfortable with his character, other than that. And I think the big concern surrounding Shane Ray all along was going to be whether or not his toe was going to be something that needed to be addressed sooner or later, and what was the prognosis as far as him missing time during the regular season. And obviously the Denver Broncos felt comfortable with it, as many other teams felt comfortable with it. Some teams didn't feel as comfortable with it. But, we hear the old phrase used in the NFL and everywhere that it only takes one team to like you. Even though there were more teams that liked him other than Denver Broncos, they obviously feel comfortable about where he's at from an availability standpoint, and it didn't change anything. None of this stuff changed anything about the fact that this kid is a dynamite player and dynamite pass rusher. So he's a good fit out there to get around guys like DeMarcus Ware, and he's probably the future, him and Von Miller.
Lewis, what happened to Landon Collins?
I think people are concerned about his ability to play in the deep half, and to play in the deep parts of the field, let's just put it that way. Although there are players in the NFL at safety in particular who are a Landon Collins type that excel and do very well in the NFL, and as a matter of fact, teams look for. It's a matter of what price do you want to pay for them. And when you're looking at it that way, people feel as though they can still get Landon at a cheaper price, although if you went today, second round is nothing to sneeze at. They just figured as though they could get him later on, and that his skills were not such that they need to jump up there and pay first-round price for it. He'll wind up going to a team here very quickly, and he'll wind up having a good career because his services and the type of play that he produces is very useful in the NFL, and someone will pick him up.
We don't know a lot about Lyle Collins. We've been trying to gather as much information as possible. Had there been no story about him other than he was a great player at LSU, where would he have gone last night?
Well, he would have been one of the tackles that came off the board very quickly after Brandon Sheriff. He would have been up there possibly in the top 15, top 20 picks. So it's a shame that what is surrounding him right now is surrounding him. He needs to get that stuff cleared up very quickly because, there's just a vacuum and a void of information right now, and NFL teams just don't like that. They don't like having the unknown. None of us like the unknown. But when you're talking about picking someone in the first round and you don't know what's going on in a situation like this, teams are just going to slide you down or totally snatch you off the board altogether. So it's very unfortunate. I hope he's able to get that squared away.
You were once in the front office, if not running the front office with the Eagles. What happened last night, and why did nothing happen publicly?
Yeah, I think I'm sure they tried to get up into the top two picks and see if they could strike a deal with Tampa Bay or Tennessee. But from what I was hearing last night from people that I know, those two teams were asking just for ridiculous compensation in order for them to get out of those two spots. And that makes sense because if you're one of those two teams, maybe you only thought that you could move down a certain number of spots and still get a quality player that you had a chance of really hitting on in the first round. So for a team like Philadelphia that would be coming from 20 to try and get up there in the top two picks, well, then you better be in return giving those teams some serious compensation. It just doesn't work out that way. So Philly just stayed where they were, picked a good wide receiver, Nelson Aguilar from USC, and then just keep on trucking today.
Overall, we've talked about several of the biggest stories, but as it was unfolding, have we already covered what surprised you the most, or was there something else?
Well, you know what? I think the only other one that shocked me a little bit was the 25th pick of the first round with Shaq Thompson going to Carolina. I thought there was there's probably better value on the board at that point in time. I think they'll need to have a very specific plan for him in order to extract the kind of value out of him that they need. in a first-round pick because he's a guy who does a lot of things well, as we know, but he just doesn't have one thing that really you can hang your hat on and say, this is a guy who's going to contribute in this way, which is what you need to have a first-rounder do on a team like that needs improvement. So that one shocked me a little bit. I'm interested to see where they play him and how they bring him along.
Louis Riddick, certainly a big first night in the NFL draft. 2 more to go. Louis, many thanks. Can't thank you enough for your time.
Absolutely, Paul. Thanks a lot.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Major League Baseball on ESPN Radio. Last season, the Pirates reached the postseason for the second consecutive season, only to be sent home early after losing the wild card. Will they return for the third straight year? This weekend they face the Cubs, who have plans to make their first postseason berth since 2008. The Cubs and Pirates. The pregame at 3 Eastern, first pitch at 4. Saturday on ESPN Radio and the new ESPN app. This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Shane Ray spoke after the draft.
You know, at that moment, I'm not going to lie. You know, I felt like it was over. You know, I felt like I had made such a mistake that had just ruined everything that I had worked so hard for. And, you know, I was sick to my stomach. And as soon as it hit the media, I didn't know what was going to happen with my future. But I can say I'm just so honored that the Broncos traded up to pick me and gave me the opportunity to redeem myself. And, you know, I'm indebted to them for that opportunity, and I plan on giving everything plus more to make sure that I can be the best I can be for this football team. I'm so relieved. I mean, just sitting there and just team after team after team, I see just passing me. I'm like, man, you know, I really felt like, you know, my character, you know, might have, you know, helped me out, you know. But I understand, you know, the issue that happened, and I understand, you know, the circumstances I put teams that were interested in me in. But with that being said, you know, I'm a Denver Bronco. I'm going to move past this. I'm going to grow as a man, and I just can't wait to play next to guys like Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware. I can't wait.
Shane Ray on ESPN Radio. Let's grab some more calls here, and Selena is next up in Ohio. How are you, Selena?
I'm doing well today, Paul. How are you?
Quite well, thank you.
I wanted to mention a couple things. First off, Shane Ray, he actually really landed on his feet. I mean, you know, he went a little lower in the draft, probably cost him some money. But by the same token, he ended up with a much better organization and probably one that led me to believe his talk of redemption a little bit more last night in his interview with ESPN Radio. In the long run, I think it actually kind of worked out well for him. So hopefully he'll.
So I guess the moral of the story is possession of marijuana can help, right?
No. The moral of the story is
it turned out well right now. Let's see where it goes from here.
Exactly. You know,
he by the way, you know, all this talk about Ware and Von Miller, all these great role models he's going to have in Denver. He had some good ones in Missouri too, and he screwed up. So let's see what happens. Let's not get carried away here.
No, I'm not getting carried away. All I'm saying is it cost him a lot of money.
We know that,
and that's the cost of his mistake. But perhaps, maybe, he might be on a better track.
What else?
The other thing I wanted to mention was a little bit about Colin Cowherd.
Okay.
And I thought it was interesting when Jim from Tuscaloosa gave his diagnosis of Cowherd this morning, earlier today, because it was kind of a self-diagnosis. Cowherd is polarizing intentionally, and Jim from Tuscaloosa is kind of the same way. The difference is that Cowherd occasionally has something of substance to say regarding sports, and, you know, Jim doesn't. But, you know...
Oh, my, Selena, you sure you want to go down that road?
Sure, I'll go down that road. I don't have a problem with that, really. I mean, this is the SEC Sports Network, and we like to talk about SEC sports, right? And last I heard, Jim from Tuscaloosa was not an SEC athletic event. But I think that there's a lot to be said for Cowherd bringing up this controversy about the SEC now. And I think he's looking to have a long summer of interaction with SEC fans. It's probably going to pretty much backfire on him all next season. So it'll be interesting.
Here's the thing
watch.
about Cowherd. He said in, November of 13 that Gus Malzahn was pretty much going to own Nick Saban, was on his way to winning 2 national championships in a row, and he was going to do quite well. That didn't work out. Saban beat Malzahn, and Auburn went 8-5. He also said Tennessee would beat Alabama last year in Knoxville. It was a blowout. It was a blowout at halftime. We know that didn't work out. By the way, those are predictions. I've made a million of them that are incorrect as well. But now that Colin has declared war on the South and the SEC, we just need to start paying a little closer attention to his predictions that went haywire.
Yeah, which is pretty much all of them, as I recollect. I mean, you know.
Pretty much.
But, you know, what do I know? I'm just an ignorant girl from the South. What could I possibly know about sports, right?
Yeah, I was about to make that point, but someone beat me to it.
I know. But, yeah, it'll be interesting to watch the great Pac-12 South regain its dominance over college football. You know, like they did in the draft last night. Oh, but wait, aren't all those players from the Pac-12 North? Just saying. Thanks a lot for talking, Paul.
Okay, Selena laying some heavy wood to Jim from Tuscaloosa.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
The big swagoo. I want to call you the great swagoo.
No, the big swagoo.
The big swagoo is here, and we'll get some phone calls in. We've been hammering this draft pretty hard. But before we do, have you heard what Colin Cowherd had to say?
I have not.
We'll play it for you here in a second because he teed off on the Southeastern Conference today.
The SEC West, which was so dominant for years and years, kind of embarrassed itself last year. Remember the bowl season? Bama lost, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Auburn, LSU, Texas A&M, lost. You may have noticed the Pac-12 South has become the best division in college football. Did you see how their teams did in bowl games? USC won, UCLA won, Arizona State won, Utah won, Arizona could have. Anybody notice the first round last night? 9 Pac-12 players. More than the SEC. I know that's hard for a guy in Tuscaloosa. By the way, the Pac-12 not only has nicer places to live, Pacific Ocean, they got better players now.
What do you think, Swag?
He finished?
Yeah, he's done.
I'm flabbergasted. I don't even understand that statement. I can't believe you would call yourself a professional sports commentator and make a statement like that. So you got hype because one year the SEC didn't do well in bowl games, and you hype because 9 players were taken from this division, and that makes them better and the SEC worse. Look, we are the SEC network, and I don't feel like yet, P-Town, that we have to defend this. This is not an argument. I wish I could just talk to those guys. Just talk to them. Just have a conversation with them and see where it comes from. But I tell you all the time, people want to see the king fall. That's why LeBron James is highly scrutinized. That's why Kobe Bryant was highly scrutinized. That's why Michael Jordan was highly scrutinized. Peyton Manning, when he loses in the Super Bowl, he's not a big game quarterback.
Can't win the big one.
So, this is the normal reaction.
Yeah, I made a point. I'm not going to try to go down, but I mean, Cowherd said, first of all, he had a couple of things wrong. A&M won the bowl game. Everyone knows that. But he talked about how Alabama's lost 4 or 5 straight big games. They beat the number 1 team in the country last year, Mississippi State.
I mean, I'm looking at these.
That was a big game, wasn't it?
Let's go. Arizona, UCLA, Arizona State, USC, Utah, and Colorado.
How do you think they would handle?
Let me go to week 5. First of all, when you look at this, pull it out, Paul.
I tell you what, I want to
compare notes.
I use this a lot of time, but I just want to give them, pick your poison there, whatever team you have. Okay.
Put who was the best? Arizona went 7-2.
I want to give you a schedule and see how they do. Okay. Arkansas at home.
Nope. They lose.
Kansas State in Manhattan, Kansas.
They may get out of there.
LSU at home.
Not a chance.
This is at Starkville.
Not with this current team.
South Carolina at home.
Might have pulled that one out.
At Ole Miss.
Nope.
A&M at home.
Nope.
You want to try the end of the season here?
Let's make them run the gauntlet.
At Athens.
Nope.
At Tuscaloosa.
Come on, man.
That was Auburn's schedule from last year.
Man.
That was Auburn's schedule.
Let's Colin Cowherd, let's start being honest, man. Let's not get emotional, and let's not start bringing things that really isn't. It's not there yet. I don't have so much respect for Cowherd, but when he says things like this, it bothers me as a football player. I mean, strength of schedule is a big deal. That's a big deal. Why do you think these teams battle till the end and they lose 7, 8 guys to injuries? Because it's big boy football in the SEC. I don't down other conferences when I talk about the SEC. I just think the SEC is better because the competition, when you get in your division, week to week, is a lot tougher than every other division in the country. And until somebody else disproves that, then I just don't want to argue. I don't want to argue. You look at Ohio State, national champions, right? I mean, the top 2 teams in that conference, who were they this year? Ohio State and Michigan State. Michigan State beat Baylor in the bowl game in the last second.
They played Oregon
and Ohio State did their thing.
Yeah.
Paul, name the rest of them. What did they do? I just have a problem. Did every team in the SEC West make a bowl game?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. I'm done with Cowherd, man.
Okay.
Let's move on. What's next? Did y'all talk about Mayweather Pacquiao any?
A little bit. What do you think?
Man, the closer.
You're a money man, aren't you?
Yeah, I like Mayweather. I don't like some of the things he represents, but I respect the athlete, and I respect how hard he works, and I respect his demeanor about being the best boxer in the world. Now, when you think about every boxer that has been a champion, they've been boisterous, they've been loud.
This is not a choir boy sport,
right? Because you promote yourself. That's how you make money. It's about promoting you. You're your own.
The greatest of all time was the greatest of all time.
Right. So I don't knock him for that. I mean, he's done some things that we don't, that's not of citizen quality. He's been to jail, but a lot of boxers been to jail. I think things in boxing is a lot more accepted than any other sport.
Having a rap sheet as a boxer doesn't.
Yeah, that makes you a better boxer.
You don't have to go see Roger Goodell.
Right. So, and then you got Pacquiao, who I respect so much, and listening, Pacquiao used to be on the other side too.
He was a
rough guy. So I respect his work ethic, what he represents now, how many people are behind him. I think people talking about the age of these fighters, they saying they wish they would have happened 5 years ago. It didn't happen 5 years ago, but you still are getting the 2 best boxers in boxing right now that's matching up and facing off. And it's so crazy how for years this is all people wanted. Now we trying to find every reason why the fight won't be what it should be. Man, Mayweather-Pacquiao is the biggest boxing match. If not in history, it's top 5 for sure.
Thank you for listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Tune into the Paul Finebaum Show every day from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network or on the ESPN radio app. Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. That one is gone. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.